Hello everyone and welcome. A pretty terminal is nice, but it doesn't automatically make a terminal easier to use. Kitty can make a window beautiful, and fish is the part that changes what happens while I type. That distinction is the whole video. This is why I care about fish here. Not because I want a fancy prompt for a screenshot, but because fish changes the way and the feeling of typing commands. It gives me those auto suggestions from history, syntax coloring, completions, abbreviations, and other things that expand into real commands and functions for tiny repeated workflows. So the question for this video is not really how do I make my terminal look cooler for once, but the question is which part of my terminal should remember how I work. Kitty can make the terminal beautiful, but fish makes the command line remember patterns instead of making me repeat them. So Kitty is important. It owns the window, does font rendering, tabs, URL detection and colors and borders, and the bell behavior, for example, if you have some task in another tab. But Kitty does not decide what my prompt knows about a repo or whether GS expands into Git status and such things. Because I'm using NixOS, by the way, I want all those habits to be inside my module for Home Manager for fish, next to the Kitty config that already uses fish. So I want to confirm the terminal layer and then make the shell useful in these 3 small steps. I want to remove the noise, meaning no greeting messages and such things. Then I want to shorten some commands that I use a lot, like nix rebuild, and I already did that. Then I want to shorten some commands like git status or maybe a few others. And I want to show useful states when I had an error, when I'm in a repository, branches, whatever. So I already have Kitty installed. This is where I enabled it in my modules in Home Manager. I already have a really cool font installed in case you're looking for something nice. The Hermit Nerd font Mono is great. Here is where we find some settings like the font sizes, the URL chorus, for example. I also got this question quite a lot about the cursor trail, so you see it moving when I jump. This would be the setting in Kitty that enables this behavior. But in case you paid attention, today's video is about Kitty using fish, and this is the line where you enable it. If you have fish installed, you can add it as the default shell of Kitty with this. Once it's done, that's all we have to do. And now let's get into fish. I think it's also important to mention that this does not make Kitty into fish, this just makes Kitty using fish. So you have your terminal Kitty that uses the shell fish. That's the distinction. Now let's get into fish. And this is my fish config. As you can see, it's just one file and there is pretty much nothing in it. It's just enabled. So there are a few things that I want to do. The greeting has to go. Then next I want some aliases, followed by some abbreviations. I read something about functions, so I'm trying to add these as well if it's possible. And finally, about the prompt or auto-completion. I think that comes baked in with fish, but we'll see how we can use this. So, and this is what the greeting now looks like. I made some little trees. I kind of like it. It doesn't really fill the screen, but I wanted to keep it simple. So as we see, fish is already suggesting where I should go, into fish, which is perfect. So in case you want to steal my wonderful creation, there are just a few colors that I defined, then I printed it out with the colors and that's it. If you really want to steal it, it's on my GitHub, but it's not that cool. Let's continue with aliases and abbreviations. Now that I think about it, they seem pretty similar. An alias is an hidden replacement, so I could just type, for example, GS, and that means git status. Then an abbreviation is a shortcut that I want to expand visibly after I typed it. They're the same, I don't know why you would use one or the other, but let's just create an alias and an abbreviation, then we'll see how we use it. Also important, add the semicolon at the start, otherwise your build will fail. I was thinking of using simple commands that I do a lot. For this example, we use ll, and I want this to be ls-lah just to show all. Here you also need a semicolon to finish it off. And the second alias is LA, and this is the alias for ls-A. I'm not sure if you have to rebuild for this, but I'm just going to do it. And it's done. Let's test them. LL gives us this output, and LA this one. So, seems like they're both working just fine. There was one problem though, it's not just alias, it's aliases, so plural. Otherwise it won't build. Okay, but now that we've done this, let's go into the abbreviations. And this is pretty simple, it's the same setup. Okay, and with the abbreviations we can do a little more because it's just nice to see the whole command often, but you don't have to type it all the time. I will use it mostly for jumps into config files that I often jump to, or some git commands, I guess. Let's start with the first one called cconf for cd into my config. Here we do exactly that. We go cd into the conf. I have a few more of that, so we want to go into the modules, just like that. And I'm not going to make you watch me type them all out, so let's skip this. Okay, and we've added them. These are the config jumps that I have. Then I have some jumps into the motion canvas that I use to make videos. I regularly use git status and git diff, git commit, git push ff only. I also never use that, so let's remove it. Then we have nix flag check. This checks whether the flag is valid or whether it's declared, or checks config can evaluate or build. This is good to do before rebuilding when you change something. Then we also have nix flag update. This updates your flag.log, so your inputs can move to newer versions like Nix packages or Home Manager or other plugins. Then we have nix develop. This enters a development shell from the flag. It is useful in projects like a dev shell that you can create. I added this because I kind of want to try the Nix dev shells, but I never really used them yet. Now that I rebuild, let's test GS. That's not good. Let me figure this out. Maybe I just have to restart the terminal because it was open before I rebuilt it. So let's add it all with GAA. I did GC for commit and finally GP for git push. So the abbreviations are working as well. Let's quickly do the NFC, the Nix flag check. And that abbreviation is also working. I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. Okay, so we are done with the aliases, we did the abbreviations, the functions is the next step, so let's just do that. You can add functions by just typing functions. You can declare them in a pretty similar way to before, and as always, do not forget the semicolon at the end. So I want a function called conf, and this one should open my Nix config on call. And for that we just cd into my config, or we return. And when we have done that, we just do the same thing as we would by hand. Neovim dot. And that's my first function. So when I've added a few more functions, we have the fishconf, does the same as the normal conf, it just opens the fishconf. We have the kittyconf. Then I created the mod. I haven't tested them yet. I'm not sure if they actually work. The idea is that I can just call mod with an argument, for example niri, and I just jump into it. Then we have the host conf. It does the same as the mods, but it jumps into my host files, so I can go into my laptop or work laptop or PC. And groot is pretty simple. I just want to go to the root directory of the Git repository that I'm currently in, and we rebuild. So we are currently not in the root directory, so I'm just going to do groot, and we are. We're currently in the root directory, and I want to go into my config for NixOS. I can do conf. And I'm in here. When I want to update my fishconf, I can go fishconf, and we are in here. The same goes for the kittyconf, I believe. And we are in here. We also have the mod where we can just jump into any mod, for example niri. And this is all my niri settings that I have. The host config should be pretty similar, so L is my current laptop. We jump into here, we see everything that's on my laptop. I think those are all the functions that I currently have, so let's just jump back into the fishconf. So I've added a small prompt and restarted. So let's just take a look. If we go into a repository, this is how it looks like. We see the master, we could see the other things. We can just open the fishconf for a quick moment. I try to keep it minimal, so just set a few different colors. So in this prompt, I added a status and just a few colors to it. I want to print a color based on the status and just mainly check Git repos that I'm currently in. There's not much to it, it just does some commands. If the command validates or gives something back, then I set the color or I don't. And that's pretty much it. But we can try to check it out. If we just touch test file, you see the change? There is now a question mark because there is a change. If we remove the test file, it is fine. If we touch test file again, touching a lot of things here. Oh, and that's perfect. So I made a mistake. I just said git add and not add. now you see the question mark because there's still a change in there, and on the left there is a red X because we made a mistake and there's one error. If we do the GAA that we added earlier, git add all, we see a plus because we have a stage change. If we now do, what was commit again? This one? Okay, the commit just opens Neovim, so we just say test commit, and we're fine with that. Now we're committed. GP to push, we're back here. Now we remove the test file again. We see a change, and now we see there's an asterisk behind the master sign. So that means an asterisk is an unstaged change. The plus is a stage change, and the question mark is an untracked file. So because we deleted the test file, which we see when we do GS, then we can choose the GAA because git add all. It's just this one. Remove test file. That's fine. And now we're back in GP, and we are done. This all seems to work pretty good. Okay, and that was it for today's session of configuring Fish. If you have any inputs or other ideas that I could do with Fish, feel free to leave a comment. Otherwise, thank you for watching, please subscribe. I hope you have a great evening or morning, and hope to see you next time. Goodbye.